Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for the Rotterdam Convention for organizing this workshop, and also for all of the participants. I am Angelique Engels, and I am the Managing Director of African Falcon. I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you a presentation on what we do. Is my screen available for everyone to see?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So I'm going to talk about what we do in Botswana, in Panamatenga. So we do African-based falconry falconry-based bird abatement. Falconry-based bird abatement is the use of highly trained falcons and hawks to chase away, eradicate, and intimidate any nuisance birds by using the natural predator versus prey behavior. A single falcon in flight can move millions of quelea birds away from a field. And currently in Panamatenga, we focus mainly on quelea bird control on the commercial agricultural fields. I would like to show you where Panamatenga is, where we are based. Panamatenga is in the northwestern part of Botswana, and it is a very big commercial agricultural area. The total area covers 45,000 hectares, and it's divided into three sections: the north, the south, and the newlands. Now, quite a big variety of grain and crops is planted throughout the entire area, namely sorghum, wheat, millet, sunflower, and quite a big variety of beans. Now I'm going to show you where some of the quelea roosts are found throughout the Panamatenga area. This is not exact GPS locations, but it gives you a very good idea of the roosts that we find throughout this entire area. And there's quite a lot of roosts throughout the entire area. Some roosts are small, about 1 million, but mega flocks of about 35 million quelea has been recorded here in Panamatenga. Now I'm going to discuss 3 case studies, and the case studies all focuses on the newlands. So this is case study number 1. Okay, study number 1. So we're going to go back to 2018, where the farmer planted 200 hectares of sorghum, of red sorghum. And an estimate of about 5 million quelea birds started roosting just north of this sorghum field. This farmer sustained more than 90% damage that year. And this is what a sorghum field looks like that has more than 90% quelea damage. As you can see, the grains are bitten off. So the quelea actually only eats, or usually only eats, half of the grain and leaves the rest behind. Now in 2019, this farmer only planted mung beans, and this is potentially just to regain any finances that they lost from the previous year. Now in 2020, the farmer contracted us out for our services to protect his 300 hectare sorghum field from quelea damage. And once again, an estimate of 5 million quelea birds started roosting in the same area during that year, during 2020. Now we protected his field with our highly trained falcons and also our specialists. And this is what his field looked like when we protected it. And as you can see, that's a very healthy looking sorghum, and he sustained less than 2% damage during that year. We're going to talk about case study number 2, which was on a slightly larger scale. This was 2 clients. It was a total of 800 hectares. And as you can see in the highlighted area over there, it was a combination of red sorghum and white sorghum. And on the photos, you can see the photo on the left is red sorghum, and the photo on the right is the white sorghum. Now, we had 2 major invasions of quelea birds. And the first invasion was an estimate of 5 million birds that arrived from the south of Panamatenga. These birds started roosting at the same site. If you remember case study number 1, that is the historical site that you find these birds. And we saw a lot of aggressive feeding behavior because of their breeding status. Now, usually the quelea would wake up at around about 6:30 in the mornings, and they would start moving to feed. Now, we had to use very advanced tactics and logistics during this time frame. So the quelea kept on wanting to move into the field that we protected, and we moved them into a natural grass field that is located about 8 kilometers away from the roost site. Now, once again, this was quite advanced tactics with the specialists driving next to the roost. Sirens on the vehicles was also implemented, and the falcons were flown in strategic places to move the roost on and to motivate them to keep moving and not start feeding on the field. This is what the grass field looks like, and this is what quelea birds would naturally feed on. Now, the second invasion happened about a week later. So while we were still dealing with the quelea birds in the north, there was another roost of about 8 million quelea birds that came from an unknown location. And they settled a little bit more towards the east of our field. So once again, we kept putting pressure on the roost that was in the north and kept moving those birds over to the grass fields. Now, the pressure with the falcons were increased, especially in the southeastern section of the sorghum field. And this blocked the roost that formed on the eastern side from moving into our field. Now, a quelea damage assessment was also conducted by government officials. And the result was that there were only 4% quelea damage on the white sorghum and 3% quelea damage on the red sorghum. And we reckon that the white sorghum had slightly more damage. The crop is a little bit more taller, and the crop might also be a little bit more palatable for them. But overall, it was extremely good results that we got from case study number 2. And this all happened in the season of 2021. Case study number 3. Case study number 3 was quite a tough one, or quite difficult. This was 300 hectares of sorghum field. Now, there's a historical quelea roost right around this 300 hectare field. And also this entire field, the sorghum was in 3 different stages. And this is what it looked like. So the sorghum on the right, you can see that it's a little bit more red. That is in the soft to the hard dough phase. So it's extremely vulnerable. The sorghum in the middle, the green, that's still very young sorghum. And on the left, there's the yellow or orange color sorghum that is still quite young, but still going into the soft dough developing stage. And in those ovals that we've drawn out, that is where quelea would roost, right around this entire field. And towards the eastern part of the field, that is also where you find another historical roost of quelea. The arrow indicates the grass fields. So if you think back to case study number 2, it is the same grass fields. And with this particular case study, we would move all of the quelea into the same grass field so that they can go and feed over there. Now, we did see quite a considerable amount of quelea that left this entire area fairly early in the season. But as we progressed throughout the season with more quelea birds moving in or new groups moving in, they started settling right around this field. It was quite difficult, especially with the new birds coming in, to then move them back into the grass fields. But we successfully managed to move them and stop them from feeding on the vulnerable sorghum field. Now, a quelea damage assessment was also conducted by government officials from crop production. And the result was that there was 8% quelea damage on this field. Even though it's slightly higher than our averages, it needs to be noted that if we were not protecting this field, they could have sustained more than 90% damage during this time frame. And this is what the grass field looks like. That is slightly more to the north of this field. This is one of our local interns protecting case study number 3, one of the falcons that he flew during the crop protection phase. And right now I would like to show you a video of one of our lanner falcons moving millions of quelea away from a white sorghum field. There you go. And as you can see, the falcon with a single flight moves all of the quelea away from this vulnerable field. Right behind the specialist is the natural grass field where the quelea birds were pushed to. Oh, that is the end of my presentation. Once again, thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity, and I look forward to answering any questions.